to crop or not to crop? That is the question. Hey, what's up? Today I would like to talk about the Canon M50, the Canon 90D, and the Canon EOS R. What about them? Well, I would like to see what happens when we shoot in 4K with them. Let's go to my office. Okay, so I'm just gonna set up my lights, finish my coffee, and we talk about my cameras in 4K just after the intro. What's up guys, Dan Frulani here and welcome back to a new video. If you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. If not, well, at least hit the like button. Okay, what am I gonna talk about in this video? Well, I would like to show you the Canon EOS R, the Canon 90D and the Canon M50 to show you what happens when you shoot in 4K with them. Let's start immediately with the Canon M50 that you're looking at right now. The Canon M50 is a crop sensor camera. Whatever lens you put on it, you have to multiply its focal length by 1.6. Therefore, right now, I'm using the 10 to 18 millimeters with the Viltrox adapter, not the speed booster, because it's an EFS lens. And you can use the speed booster only with EF lenses. Right now I'm filming in 1080, so you're looking at an upscaled 1080. What happens when I shoot in 4K? When shooting in 4K with the M50, you will get on top of the 1.6 crop an additional crop. And this is why I'm using a very wide lens, which is a 10 millimeters. I mean, it's a 10 to 18 millimeters. That corresponds to a 16 to 28-ish on a full frame. It's pretty wide, you can vlog with it, you can see pretty much everything around me, and I'm really close to the camera. But as I said, when you shoot in 4K with this camera, first of all, it crops a lot. And second, you lose the dual pixel autofocus. You still have some autofocus, but it's different. It's a contrast-based autofocus that works not very well, but it's decent. But I'm gonna show it to you right now. Okay, I haven't moved. I'm still standing where I was like 1 second ago, and you can see how much it punches in, how much it crops. And also the autofocus, I don't know if you can follow me very well, I guess. But even if it's working well right now, I'm telling you from my own experience, it doesn't work very well. Okay, so this is the 4K, the Canon M50 with the 10 to 18 millimeters at 10 millimeters in 4K. I mean, can you vlog with it? Because this is what you will see. I guess so, yeah. It's not bad. I mean, but still you have to consider the autofocus. That might give you some problems or not. And by the way, I don't know if you're a vlogger, do you really need 4K? 1080 right now. I don't know, it feels better. I'm less claustrophobic, let's say. And the quality of the 1080 or the Canon M50 is not bad. It's pretty good. What do you think? Let me know in the comments down below. Hit the like button and subscribe if you aren't already. And check the links in the description to see all my gear. Now this is what you get from the M50 in 1080 and 4K using an EFS lens. But now I would like to show you another camera, which is the Canon 90D. This is another great camera I have. It's another APS-C crop sensor camera with a 1.6 crop. So whatever lens you put here, you get the 1.6 crop. just like with the M50. But the difference is that while with the M50 you need an adapter to mount EF and EFS lenses, with the 90D you don't need an adapter. But let me put it here on the tripod. Now you're looking at the Canon 90D with the 10 to 18 millimeters, and let's see what happens when we shoot in 4K. Alright, so what happens when you shoot in 4K with the Canon 90D? Well, absolutely nothing. Well, besides the fact that you get more quality, I guess. What do you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. By the way, nothing happens like now because I'm shooting with the uncropped 4K. I think I didn't tell you that with the 90D there are two options to shoot in 4K. One is uncropped like this, and of course the dual pixel autofocus works, all is fine. You just get the 4K with no additional crop. So you're looking at the regular 1.6 crop that you would get anyway even in 1080, because this is a crop sensor camera. As I mentioned, there is another option, which is the cropped 4K, which is supposed to give us a better quality. Let's see it right away. So this is the 4K, the cropped one of the Canon 90D. For sure we have less in frame. I think it's great that we have the option to choose whether to use the cropped or uncropped 4K with this camera. So still with the Canon 90D, back in 1080. So when it comes to 4K, we can choose whether we want the regular 4K without any additional crop or the cropped 4K for more quality, maybe. Let me know what you think about it. Leave a comment down below, hit the like button and subscribe if you aren't already. Okay, now I would like to talk about the EOS R, which is a great camera. Is this guy here. What's different from the M50 and from the 90D is that this is a full frame camera. So for example, when you put a native lens, any RF, for example the 35 millimeters, what you see is a focal length of 35 millimeters. Same thing when you put any EF lens, you see it in full frame. You put a 50 millimeters EF and you see a focal length of 50 millimeters. However, when you use the EOS R with an EFS lens, you're gonna see it cropped. Just like if it was a crop sensor camera. To shoot with any EF or EFS lens, you need the adapter. So I said that when you use it with an EF lens, you don't get any crop. You see it full frame. And this is true for native lenses, RF, and with the EF lenses with the adapter. But when you use an EFS lens, you see it cropped, just like if it was a crop sensor camera. And this is true when shooting in 1080. But what happens when we shoot 4K? We're about to find out. 1 second. So this is the Canon EOS R with a native lens, the RF 35mm 1.8 in 1080. And as you can see, it looks like 35mm on a full frame camera. But what happens when we shoot in 4K with this camera and this lens? Let's find out. And here we are with the Canon EOS R and a native lens, the RF 35mm 1.8 in 4K. And I'm standing on the very spot where I was before. It just crops in a lot. I think it's a 1.7 crop or something like that. I haven't reframed or anything, just to show you how much it punches in, how much it crops. But it's supposed to be really nice. Let me know what you think about it. Now I want to show you what happens when we put an EFS lens, like the 10 to 18 millimeters. 1 second. Okay, so this is the Canon EOS R with the 10 to 18 millimeters. It's an EFS lens with the adapter. This is at 10 millimeters and it's pretty wide. It's a 10 to 18 millimeters, but it actually looks like a 16 to 28-ish millimeters or something. And now if it was a true 10 millimeters, it would look like much wider. This is what happens when we put EFS lenses for crop sensor cameras on the EOS R. We just see them like if the camera was a crop sensor camera with a 1.6 crop. Now let's see what happens when we shoot in 4K. And voila! Do you see any difference? No? Well, it's because when you use an EFS lens on the Canon EOS R, when you shoot in 1080 and when you shoot in 4K, there is no difference. There is no additional crop. All the crop you get is the 1.6 because the lens was meant to be used on crop sensor cameras. It goes without saying that the autofocus is great. I'm moving around like an idiot and everything is fine. Let's wrap it up. So we have seen the Canon M50, the Canon 90D and the Canon EOS R shooting in 4K. And what happens? Well, the Canon M50 when shooting in 4K gives us a huge crop, no matter what. We can fix that a little bit with the speed booster if we use an EF lens or just using a wide angle lens like the 10 to 18 millimeters or the 11 to 22, where we cannot use the speed booster. One is an EFS lens, the 10 to 18 millimeters, and the other is an M mount lens, but they're wide enough to grant us a good shot even in 4K. You have seen how much it crops. There's also another problem, which is the autofocus. In 4K, it sucks, because the Canon M50, when shooting in 4K, loses the dual pixel autofocus and gets a contrast-based autofocus, which is not really the best in the world. It sucks. While the Canon 90D is a great crop sensor camera that when shooting in 4K doesn't apply an additional crop. So the 1.6 crop is all you get. The Canon 90D when shooting in 4K doesn't lose the dual pixel autofocus, which is great. Also, you have the option to shoot 4K cropped, and there, yes, of course, it adds some crop, but I believe it provides us with a better looking image or more details, more quality anyway. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. The Canon EOS R, it's a little bit more complicated than that because it's a full frame camera. When it shoots in 4K, it crops like 1.6, 1.7 I believe, but it keeps the dual pixel autofocus, and when you use an EFS lens, doesn't add any more crop. When you use an EF lens, it crops. So let's say the EOS R is a great camera. The downside that when you use EFS lenses with the adapter on the Canon EOS R, you lose something. The ability to shoot high frame rates, also to shoot at 60 frames per second at any resolution. That's a kind of a bummer because that means goodbye slow motion. But come on, the EOS R is not a camera that you buy to use with EFS lenses. It's a great plus that you can use it with EFS lenses for crop sensor cameras, and when you shoot in 4K you don't get any additional crop and you have the dual pixel autofocus and you have the C-Log and everything. If you're looking for a camera to shoot in 4K, the Canon M50 is not for you, just forget it. It's an awesome entry-level camera if you want to start filming, if you want to take great photos, just forget the 4K. In my opinion, it's not usable. The 90D is wonderful for a crop sensor camera, and when you shoot in 4K, you don't have additional crop. Woo, that's awesome. And you have the option to crop or not to crop. That is the question. So it's up to you. And the EOS R, let's say when in 4K, if you just forget the fact that you lose the ability to shoot at 60 frames per second and high frame rates with EFS lenses, but you can do that with all EF lenses and RF lenses, of course. To wrap it up, if you want a full frame 4K, well, this is not the camera. Neither the 90D because it's a crop sensor camera, nor the EOS R because in 4K there's a crop and it's big. And even with the EFS lenses, I mean, the fact that it doesn't crop anymore doesn't make it a full frame. It makes it an APS-C sensor camera on steroids, but it's good, it's awesome, you can use it, it's a professional camera in my opinion, yeah, but again, I don't shoot much in 4K. There are not many clients asking me to shoot in 4K, but if I have to, I can walk around these difficulties with the EOS R or with the 90D, but definitely not with the M50. And I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, smash the like button, subscribe if you ain't already, and I will see you guys in the next video.